Mr. Pawlowski, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you coming on and agreeing to speak with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me in.
Mr. Pawlowski, I came across your video a few weeks ago, and it was one of the videos that compelled me to utilize this platform in helping my fellow brothers and sisters to amplify their voice and to get their messages out and to give people more of an honest idea of what exactly is happening in Canada. I know oftentimes when we've spoken to family and friends, we're in BC right now. We just moved from Ontario last year to BC, and oftentimes things are transpiring and progressing much more quickly in Ontario than they have been in BC. And so even our family and friends who are in BC have a hard time believing that it's actually as bad as we describe it sometimes. So my inclination to offer this platform and this time to wonderful heroes like yourself, everyday heroes like yourself, is to basically create a bit of a news platform, because I feel like the news network, the mainstream news, is not doing anyone justice by the widespread censorship that's going on.
You're absolutely right.
I will share in a moment the video that I saw, that it's actually on your YouTube channel. I will share that shortly. But just to clarify, what province and city are you in, Mr. Pawlowski?
Calgary, Alberta.
Okay, great. And what took place? Can you give us a bit of a context for the video that I'm about to share? What took place during Easter weekend, the service that you were conducting at that time?
Well, the story starts 13 months earlier when the whole world goes crazy and you start seeing police officers, bylaw officers, and health inspectors literally attacking law-abiding citizens for just living, just doing what they have been doing since they were born, just living. 13 months ago, the police showed up at our church outside where we feed the homeless people, declaring that now everything we're doing is illegal and we have to stop feeding the poor and taking care of them. I refused. I ended up with $1,200 ticket. I was the first pastor, clergyman in Canada to get a COVID ticket. And then my parishioners were shoved, assaulted. I was threatened with $1 million ticket. And from that moment, I started to have officers again in our church location outside 4 times a week. Like I said, we're feeding the homeless people outside of the building in front of City Hall. Police would show up. Police would intimidate us, take the pictures of parishioners, harass the volunteers, and I would end up with another COVID ticket for not wearing a mask while I'm performing my duty as a frontline worker, as a pastor, for not social distancing, etc. I end up with 28 tickets so far, COVID tickets, and then that was going on for a number of months. In December, there was a show-off. They showed their true force during our Christmas celebration. So what we did, we fed hundreds of people. We had Christmas carolers. We had testimonies and preachers coming to our outdoor church service where we were feeding the homeless, and they brought over 100 police officers, 52 police cars, 20 officers on bicycles. We were recorded, some were ticketed, and I ended up with 11 more tickets under my belt. The government of Canada in December declared the Christmas is cancelled. So what I did, I sent a message to the politicians and to the mainstream media, to the people, that we're canceling them, and we're saying to them that they are unessential services. The church has been and will always be essential, and it's needed for the people, for the well-being of the people. We're not canceling anything. We're actually expanding, because this is a time of crisis where churches needed the most and more than ever. So that was their response. The response of the mayor was to send over 100 police officers to intimidate and to harass us. And that was going on in the outdoor church. I also pastor an indoor church in the building. Every Saturday, we are meeting inside the building, and I teach, preach, we have worship, we pray for people, we eat together, we have Lord's Supper together. And then the police started to show up at that location. I would have officers blocking the driveway, preventing people from coming in, harassing, intimidating, and we had to fend them off. Then they would show up at our outside of the parking lot, taking pictures of our parishioners, children and women, and they would just intimidate anyone and everyone that dared to go inside the church building or was coming out. We dealt with that as well. We fend them off. We challenged their authority on this, and they left. And then Easter came, Passover for us, a day of celebration when we celebrate the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And
Mr. Pawlowski, I actually have a clip from Rebel News. If you're okay with it, I'll just share the segment that there's a clip that where you were assisting or helping with the homeless at that time. So before we then go to the Easter event, because I have a separate clip on that, would it be okay if I shared this clip with the audience?
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Generous things, and we have been attentive to the police abuse of you. A year ago, I mean, here's some footage while I speak. You were literally feeding the homeless on the streets of Calgary. It was a bit of a light snowfall. It was cold. These were hungry people. You were feeding them, and half a dozen Calgary police came up to you, pushed you around, and actually gave you a $1,200 fine. They said it was an illegal gathering. I don't know what's wrong with the police, but they sure seem to pick on you a lot, Arthur.
Yes, they do. This is not my first run. I've told them many times, on many occasions, do not come to our church. Do not intimidate our children, our elderly. Just do not do that. If you want.
Okay, so I wasn't aware that that's happened numerous times. So that wasn't the first time, and that wasn't the last time that that's happened.
Well, to be clear, what happened during Easter was the first time that they dared to enter our church facility. That was the first time that they actually broke a number of criminal laws by going inside. Normally, they would stay outside, or they would harass and intimidate us on our outdoor location. But inside, I've told them a number of times they're not allowed to come. They would be trespassing. It's illegal for them to do so. And they stayed away until this Easter.
Okay, so I will share this with you, and then maybe you can speak to a little bit more about it.
Please get out. Get out of this property. Immediately get out. Get out of this property immediately. Out. I don't want to hear anything. Out of this property immediately. I don't want to hear a word. Out. Out. Out of this property immediately until you come back with a warrant. Out. 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 Out of this property. Immediately out. Immediately go out and don't come back. I don't want to talk to you. Not a word. Out of this property. Immediately out. I don't care what you have to say. Out. Out. Out of this property, you Nazis. Out. Out. Gestapo is not allowed here. Immediately, Gestapo is not allowed. Out. Do you understand English? Get out of this property. Go. So go. Go. And don't come back without a warrant. Out, Nazi. Out. Out. You understand? Nazis are not welcome here. Out. And don't come back without a warrant. Do not come back without a warrant. You understand that? You're not welcome here. Nazis are not welcome here. Gestapo is not welcome here. Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths.
So, Mr. Pawlowski, you're aware of your rights then, because I imagine if somebody was aware of their rights, they would have come right in and they would shut down the service.
And that's what they have been doing for the past 30 months. Canadians, unfortunately, and many people around the world do not know their rights. They do not know the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Constitution, whatever it's in their countries. So the authorities are using that ignorance against the people. They're just showing up with their guns and their badges and their so-called authority, and they are trampling on people's rights. And normally people want to obey the authorities because they cannot even fathom or imagine that the authorities would be openly breaking the law and work against the people, not for the people. You know, in Calgary, Calgary police used to have a slogan, to serve and to protect, and they changed that slogan. They used to have uniforms in blue and white, and now they changed the colors of their vehicles and their uniforms into black. They actually look more and more like the Gestapo of old, and they changed their slogan from serve and protect to some kind of vigilance, pride, and whatever else they're putting on their vehicles. So you see a shifting, you see a change, and the people are not aware of what's really going on. So here is the recap of the situation. First of all, they were trespassing. They were told not to come. They did it anyway. They went with their guns, with their badges and whatever else they had with them into a private property, and they broken that law. Also, they interfered with the clergyman while he was conducting his duty. I mean, that means they've broken a criminal code, 2 years jail time. They also broke another law. They came and interfere with a church gathering, which is 5 years punishable by the Criminal Code of Canada. So in order, they came in the name of the law to make sure that I'm preaching with a mask on, which is $100 infraction, is lesser than a parking ticket. $100 here is just an infraction, is not actual law. And at the same time, they broke 3 criminal laws in the name of making sure that I am wearing a mask, a bylaw infraction. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. It looks like they can get away with whatever they want. They are acting under the order of corrupted, evil politicians that have betrayed the trust of the people. They have become the turncoats, traitors, and those politicians should be charged with treason because they're not working for the people anymore. They're working against the people. So what I did what I always do. I tried to protect the people that were inside, the people that wanted to come and worship God without the government infringement, free people, adults that wanted to come and worship their God in peace. We're not living in China, we're not in Saudi Arabia or Russia, where you would expect a behavior from the authorities like this. This is a democratic Canada with the Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Historically speaking, if you look even at the Middle Ages, the soldiers, the warriors, the knights were required to leave their weapons, their swords, outside of the synagogue, outside of the cathedral, outside of the church. But here, 21st century right now, those people are walking into a church like they're going into a restaurant. There is total disregard to our place of worship. Historically, church was always a place of refuge. It was a holy sanctuary, a place where people would hide. Historically speaking, from the time of the Nazis, Jews were smuggled into the churches and were sheltered by the churches. And right now, it looks like the government is harassing, intimidating and attacking the places of worship, the places of refuge. However, we only see the crackdown on the Judeo-Christian values. So the Jewish people are under attack and the Christians are under attack. The mosques, the Hindu temples are totally left without any hindrances. So you got about 1,000 Muslims. Someone sent me a video, and there's about 1,000 Muslims worshiping during Ramadan. Right now we have Ramadan, and those people are worshiping their God, and no harassment from authorities, no harassment from health inspectors or bylaw officers, no No harassment whatsoever, no tickets. Hundreds of people, hundreds of cars at the parking lot, and yet they would leave them be and come and hunt down Christian churches and Jewish synagogues. That tells you that there is a bigger agenda at play. For example, I cannot visit my parents, I cannot have a coffee with my brother, but I can take all of my family and about 200 more people to Walmart, and I can have a coffee there. I can socialize there. I cannot have a church service, but I can go to IKEA, and at the outside door of IKEA right now, there is a message only 480 people allowed. So I can have half a thousand people from my church. I can go to IKEA and have a church service over there, if you will, hang around and talk and exchange ideas, but I cannot have a church meeting. I can go to a mega store like Safeway and shop with hundreds of others right there, shoulder to shoulder. However, I cannot go across the street and shop at my friend's grocery store, which is a lot safer, even if you look from the perspective of the so-called pandemic. It's a lot safer to be with lesser people than with a huge amounts of people, and yet those places are shut down. That tells you that there is an agenda. There is something going on. It's not about health. This whole thing we're seeing right now has nothing to do about health. It has everything to do with control, abuse of power, enslaving people. They tell us to put a muzzle on. They're telling put a piece of cloth on your face, even though the doctors, scientists, biologists, and biologists, people that are smarter than us, are saying that the virus is 1,000 times smaller than the bacteria. So this piece of cloth cannot possibly stop from the virus from coming in or going out, but they tell us to wear it anyway. Wear it because we tell you so. So when you look at the history and you look what's really going on around us, you know that this has nothing to do with health, but it has to do with control. They want you to be a person without face, a person that they put the muzzle on and they tell you, be quiet, be quiet, do not talk, we're not interested in your voice, you have no identity, we're covering your face, you have no say, you have no voice, you are a slave, you are to do what we're telling you to do. The government officials also tell us that we are in this together, and yet they're giving themselves raise after raise after raise, while the rest of us are struggling with surviving. Our businesses are being shut down, our restaurants, the people that work so hard, the patriots, generation from generation, are being completely destroyed. The middle class is being eliminated, the small and medium-sized businesses destroyed, while the mega corporations are thriving and the politicians are giving themselves raise. They tell us, stay home. You're not allowed to go out. There's going to be a curfew, or we're going to shut down provinces, which is again illegal because we have a fundamental right of mobility right. We can, under Constitution, travel from province to province. That's our right because this is one country. But they have just shut down the British Columbia, and they have shut down Ontario illegally. Everything they're doing right now is illegal, is against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but somehow people are okay with that, and there is a very little uproar. So how that happened? It happened through decades of manipulating the public using indoctrination. I grew up under communist dictatorship, and that's exactly what the communists were doing. They were doing the mainstream media indoctrination, in school indoctrination. The only message that they wanted you to hear was their message. And they're doing exactly the same here in our country, Canada. They are deplatforming, censorship is huge, and the only voice that you're allowed to hear is their voice. This is a total takeover by the political arena, enslaving the population, eliminating hardworking, small, middle-sized businesses and middle class. Why? Because to control a nation, To control a society, first you have to control the narrative, mainstream media. Then you have to have the political power, because that gives you the guns. It gives you the brown shirts of Adolf Hitler, if you will, the Gestapo, the SS, the KGB, that will do your bidding, that will do your dirty work. And then second, the third, you need to eliminate the ability for people to fight back. They need to be extremely poor, because poor people, they gotta work hard, 2 jobs. They cannot go to rallies, they cannot protest, they cannot oppose the government. First of all, they don't have the money to hire lawyers. Second, they don't have time to oppose the tyrannical government. That's what we are witnessing right now in front of our eyes. It's the greatest elimination of the middle class, of the opposition during our lifetime.
That's a great point, Mr. Pawlowski. That was going to be actually one of my questions that I was going to bring forth with regards to, has your Eastern European Polish background contributed in any way to you knowing full well that this is not about a virus and that this was never about a virus? So I thank you for addressing that. I can definitely relate. I was born in Iran, and I was born during the revolution, and lived first 8 years of my life was during the war between Iran and Iraq. And I witnessed firsthand at the horrors of that. And then later on in my teenage years, I started to look back and do more research, and then early adulthood as well. And I came across one of the videos of the Shah speaking to a news reporter. And this was probably about 20 years ago, but the Shah basically said to this news reporter, "Did you know that the media is not owned by private entities? The media has always been owned by very few people who control the narrative." And so this is a sort of background that I feel like when you have been exposed to communism, when you have been exposed to, Holocaust, when you have been exposed to firsthand witnessing government overreach and corruption, you realize that this is exactly what we're witnessing at this time. So thank you for addressing that and bringing that up. Mr. Pawlowski, what has been the reaction since your video went viral?
First of all, what happened was I reacted like I always did. I wanted to kick them out, fend off the hyenas, if you will. And I know that those people have no problem to lie. They have no problem to manipulate and create something that didn't happen. I witnessed that number of times during the trials, and as you are aware, I was arrested a number of times before, and I stood over 100 times before different courts for illegally feeding the homeless and preaching. So I witnessed officers lying after they swore to tell the truth. I've seen them manufacturing documents, creating false documents. And if I did not have the camera, I would be, to this day, I would probably be still in jail. So from experience, I know that those people have no problem to lie. So I ran to my pulpit, I grabbed the telephone, and I started to record a conversation. Just in case they will say I've done something or I said something that was illegal, I fend them off. I did my narrative in the end. I was shaken. I was upset for what I witnessed. Even the communists, during the times I grew up under the Iron Curtain in Poland, under the boots of the Soviets, even the communists would not dare, with their guns and their uniforms, enter the church building. They would wait outside for the people, but they would not try to do this to the people during the mass. There were occasions from time to time, but in most of the time they would wait. At least they would respect that much. But here in the 21st century, they have absolutely zero respect for our God or for our faith that actually built this country. Canada was built on Judeo-Christian values. Our forefathers that built this country, the immigrants that came here, were Christians, and they built this country for a purpose, and they called this country a new world without persecution. Many of them escaped persecution in 1600s, 1700s to come here to North America to start a new life without persecution. So I recorded the incident, and then they left. I put a guard on the door. I actually had to put a security guard on the door just in case they would dare to come back. just to notify me if they would be back. And then I went and we worshiped God. We went to singing, and prayer started and everything. And I uploaded that video to my Facebook page and YouTube channel, and I didn't think twice about it. I thought, yeah, a few people will see it, and that will be the end of it. I've done a lots of work. I got thousands of videos, and if people want to see them, Artur Pawlowski TV or Street Church Calgary, and I always upload something almost every day on my Facebook page as well. So I thought it's going to be one of many videos that I've done, a few thousand views, and that's it. But after the service, I prayed for people, we worshiped, I preached, and then after I looked, and there was like so many views, thousands upon thousands of people shared the video. And I was told afterwards that during that Easter weekend, that was the #1 played video on the planet Earth. That now this video was played over 1 billion times. Even I learned 2 days ago that the President Donald Trump was talking about it as well. I would never expect that this is going to trigger a spiritual revolution, if you will. But here is what the people are telling me, and I got tens of thousands of emails and texts and telephones, people reaching me from all over the world. I just talked to someone from Mexico. People are stirred, and this is what they say to me. They say that their leaders failed them, that their leaders became cowards. Politicians have sold them, and they were looking for someone that can show them how to fight with this fascism, with this communism, with this hybrid of medical tyranny, because that's what we're seeing right now. It's a medical tyranny. It's not based on data, it's not based on facts, it's based on fear. They're tyrants pushing their narrative against the people, hoping that people will be ignorant enough that they can implement whatever the agenda they have. So I was surprised. I didn't expect that. And people are saying that what happened in their hearts, in their spirits, it triggered hope, it triggered fire. People, even atheists, are saying to me that now they're going back to church. I had been contacted by Orthodox Jews, Orthodox Christians, Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, atheists, left and right, saying that this video showed them that it's possible to fight with tyranny. It's possible to fend off the hyenas. Is possible to stand up. In other words, if you did it, they say to me, if you did it, that means I can do it as well. If you stood up boldly against fascism, we can do it as well. So right now, I believe there's a lots of people rising up, standing up against this tyranny and saying no, because in the end of the day, that's what it takes. It takes a man to say to them no and get out. I mean, it's so simple. Say no and get out. I'm not going to put up with this tyranny any longer. This is infringement on our rights. They are lawbreakers. We have to say what's really going on. They are the lawbreakers. They are the tyrants. They are the traitors, turncoats. They should be charged with treason. They have betrayed the trust of the people. Instead of protecting people during the times of crisis, they have turned on their own people. And people are taking courage by a simple video. If you would say to me a day before, an hour before, 10 minutes before that happened, that this little video, something like this, is going to be watched 1 billion times, and I would become some kind of a symbol of resistance, I would start laughing at you. I would say, come on, no way. In my opinion, I've done some amazing speeches in parliament, in different places, city halls across the country. I would pick one of those speeches, not me yelling at the people, overturning the tables, if you will, cleaning the house, chasing the demons out of the holy place. I would never pick that video for a revolution. But the funny thing about all of this is that God works in mysterious ways. He uses foolish things. He uses things that we probably would never use for his glory, because I can't say I did it. What I did it on the authority and with the authority of Jesus Christ. I believe that every pastor, every priest, every rabbi, every person that loves other people should fend off evil from among them. Every leader, every shepherd should use that authority and kick the wolves, the hyenas, out from their congregations. I mean, if the shepherds will not stand up for people, if the shepherds will not fend off the wolves, who is going to do it? That's our job as a leaders. We are to lead people and protect people from the enemy. And those preachers have failed their people, and the politicians betrayed the people. So I think what is happening right now, God is using this situation to raise nameless, faceless generation of, I call them nobodies in the eyes of men, but somebodies in the eyes of God, just like in the story of David and the giant Goliath. The Israelites were terrified. The Philistines were powerful. They had all the weapons. They had all the technology, the latest gigs. And there was a huge giant in the middle, and the Israelites were terrified. All the fancy guys, all the, you know, popular preachers and famous, you know, motivational speakers, they're all terrified. But it took a nobody, someone that was smelling like a sheep, to see what's going on. He knew his God, he knew who he was in God, and he used the devices that God has given it to him, the sling, the stick, and the stone, and he goes after the giant because he knows he's God, and he chops the giant's head using the devices of the enemy. I think that's what we got to start doing right now. We got to use the weapons of the enemy against the enemy's head. We need to use political system. We need to use the court system, educational system, and the media. And that's what you're doing right now against the enemy. Bring the truth, because the Bible says the truth will set the captives free.
Wonderful. That's so great. Mr. Pawlowski, my husband and I, so my husband deals primarily with the medical scientific side of things. So his platform is Inspire Health Podcast. And if the audience is tuning in, if you're interested about when Mr. Pawlowski says this is not based on science and you need a little bit more information around that, feel free to check that platform and you'll get filled in. We've had interviews with a lot of really wonderful guests, including Dr. Northrup. And to your point, what Dr. Northrup, Christiane Northrup, mentioned in a recent interview that we did with her was that you have to have courage, because at the level of courage is when providence, where grace comes in, and, you know, label that God comes in to assist you. But until you reach the level of courage, you won't be able to see it as clearly as it is until you reach that level of courage. And what this video depicts to me, and I think that's what the appeal is for a lot of people, you are readily stepping into your sovereignty as a free man and displaying a whole lot of courage. And it's definitely very inspirational for all of us to see.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Like I said, I did what was in my heart. In my heart, this was not a time for a debate. You don't debate with hyenas. You don't have a conversation with the wolves in the middle of the dinner that you have with your sheep, with the people that came to you for protection. They came to the sanctuary. So I fend them off, I kick them out, and I hope that every business owner, every family man, every woman, every church goer, every church shepherd would do the same thing. Fend off the enemies, kick them out. There is no time for a debate. There was not the time, there was not the place to have a conversation about the restrictions. They could call me and have an appointment with me. They could say, we would like to inspect this facility. Can you arrange that for us? And I would say, why not? Sure, I have nothing to hide here. But what they did, they broke the law, and they came for one purpose, to intimidate and to harass. That's why they were there during the mass. They deliberately did it in such a way that the people will be terrified and scared. And that's why I call them Nazis, Gestapo, fascists, and communists, because they were using identical tactics that I grew up under behind the Iron Curtain. And I've heard from my grandparents the tactics of the Gestapo, the tactics of the fascist Nazis. They always use terror, they always use fear to intimidate people, to force people into compliance. What we're seeing right now is a tyrannical laws, medical tyranny being used to force people into compliance. That's what we're seeing. Repetition of history. And you know, I know some people accused me of using a very hard language, but I said to them, if you act like a Nazi, if you act like a KGB communist, I'll call you a Nazi, I'll call you a communist. Stop acting like one.
Absolutely. I think too, I was going to mention with regards to your tickets, out of curiosity, are they withholding in court? What's going on with them? Is any of it, because we realize that once you do get into the legalities of it, it's not based on anything concrete. So at your end, going through the court system, I thought, you know, they're probably doing all of this to keep people occupied and away from their mission and away from doing what they need to do in order to fight this, and that's why they're, you know, giving out tickets and taking them through court. But at your end, are they actually withholding? Is there any substance in these tickets?
Well, I got 28 tickets so far with my brother David for all kinds of things, for organizing illegal gatherings. So that's where we feed the people, for not wearing a mask, for not social distancing, all the COVID nonsense that they're bringing. So far, out of 28 tickets, 3 were withdrawn by the Crown Prosecutor. I got 25 to go. And the funny thing about this is that they are refusing to give us disclosures. To this day, we did not receive disclosures to fight this. So my cases were pushed until I think the first appearance again, because I just send the email. Everything is virtual right now by emails. So what happened was, when I had just a week ago, I was supposed to appear before the courts for my plea. And I sent an email, because that's how it's done right now, that I'm pleading not guilty. And they just pushed for the trial in December. So they're pushing, everything is being pushed, because what they want, and here is the key, and I hope that people are listening. The key is not to go to court. Their agenda is to force the society by fear, by terror, by telling them we will penalize you, forcing people into compliance. What they want to achieve is they want to scare the society to the point that they will all just comply. I don't want to get a ticket. This is $1 million tickets. I had a meeting with the chief of police, and you know what I said to him? I said, why don't you give me $1 billion ticket? I mean, now you're throwing the numbers, 750,000, $1 million ticket. I said, why not $1 trillion? At this moment, the number, it means nothing. You're throwing the numbers left and right, and you think, what? You give me $1 million ticket and I'm going to give up my life for you? No, I've never, since this craziness started, I never stopped meeting people. On the record, I meet people every single day. I pray for people every single day. I have coffees with people every day. I've never stopped seeing my parents, even though it was and is still illegal. I meet my parents. I love my parents. No devilish government is going to tell me I cannot meet my parents. I don't care what they're going to do. Shoot me dead, I said to the chief of police. The only way to get rid of me is you gotta shoot me dead. Then I won't be loving people, and I won't be feeding people, and I won't be congregating with people. So take your gun, shoot me dead, because otherwise you have to deal with me. I will not comply to your devilish evil from the pit of hell orders. I meet people all the time since the beginning. I pray for people. I lay my hands on the people every single week, hundreds of people, and I'm healthy. And the people in our church are healthy. People are right now depressed, suicidal. They have no hope. they're turning into drugs because, of course, you got to remember the liquor stores and the drug stores are open through all of this. Abortion clinics are open, except the churches are shut down. The places of hope, the places where you get strength, the places where you can communicate, when you can receive hope, those places are being shut down. So forget about what they're telling you, that this is about your health. This is against your health. Healthy people meet with each other. Healthy people dine together. Healthy people go for coffees. They laugh together. They love each other. That's what healthy people do. What you see right now is unhealthy, is crazy. It turns people into craziness. That's why you got such a huge spike in suicide. There's more people that committed suicide right now than the people that died from the so-called deadly pandemic. In the city of Calgary, you know that there was less hospitalization in 2020 than in 2018 and 2019. Where is the pandemic? Excuse me. I mean, you're telling me that this is so deadly that people are dropping dead left and right, and every day you're giving me so many cases and so many people dead. Excuse me, less people died in 2020 than in 2019. So where is the deadly pandemic? In the province of Alberta, less people died in the whole province than the year before. What is going on? I mean, if you're not seeing this, if you're not hearing, then you're stupid, or you're blind, or you're deaf, or you're part of the problem, or you're so ignorant there is very little hope for you. You're part of the problem. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Educate yourself. I always say to the people, Google it up, find out for yourself. Don't believe me, don't trust me, it's okay. I'm just a man. I may be a liar. I may be working for the government. You Google it up. You talk to the doctors. You talk to the scientists. You talk to virologists. You talk to them. Find out the truth for yourself. Don't just follow because they are leading you to the cliff. You know, it's very interesting. When we go to the restaurant and we are ordering our meal, right? I mean now it's everything is shut down, so we can't even go to a restaurant. But let's pretend the craziness is not there. You go to a restaurant and you're ordering your meal. Do you check what they're serving? Do you look at your plate to find out that whatever you have ordered, that's what they served you? Because that's what I do. I'm ordering a steak. I don't want a chicken. I want to make sure I have a steak because that's what I ordered. That's what I want to eat. I don't eat just because they're serving. Why do people do not use the same concept if it comes to politics, which is so corrupted, so evil to the highest level? Why they do not use the same concept to the mainstream propaganda machinery? It's beyond me. They're eating just because they're serving them. And now they're poisoned. They're poisoned to a point of almost no return, indoctrinated to a point of craziness. And now they're turning and saying, oh, what can we do? There is no hope. There is hope. There is always hope. Open your eyes, open your ears, or clean them if you can't hear anything. And like my brother says, Canadians, wake up and smell the coffee. It's time to wake up and smell the coffee. It's time to rise up. It's time for a spiritual awakening, spiritual revolution. It's time to resist the evil. Do not comply. Do not follow their orders. Do not wear a muzzle on your face because it's hurting you. Wearing that stuff on your face is hurting you, is contaminating your mouth, your throat, and your lungs. Humans were never designed to breathe the stuff in and out like this. It's hurting you. It's hurting your children. Don't do it. Don't follow orders that are against your health, because in the end of the day, in that hospital bed, you will be there alone, and no politician is going to care about your pain. No so-called chief medical officer is going to care about your pain if you live or die. They don't care about you. They care about their agenda, and their agenda is to hurt you, to destroy you. So go to the rallies, go to the protests, participate, resist, just like Martin Luther King Jr. did during the civil rights movement. Do not comply. Peaceful resistance. Do not use violence. Peacefully resist them. And listen to the guy that grew up under communist dictatorship and seen the solidarity movement with Lech Wałęsa. 1981, I saw with my own eyes the power of the unified people, the power of people taking it to the streets. They took it to the streets. Yes, tens of thousands were arrested. Yes, a number were shot and clapped to death. But a year later, they got their freedom. If you want your freedom, if you value freedom, you got to do something about that freedom. It's like a muscle. Use it or lose it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pawlowski. That's really powerful message, and I hope more people tune in and share this message. How can you repeat one more time how people can get a hold of you, stay connected with you, and follow your work and also support you?
Well, if people want to support, like I said, we feed thousands of people on the streets of Calgary. 4 times a week, we go to the streets and we take care of the orphans, the widows, and the people are living under the bridges, people living in bushes. We take them off the streets. We try to find them jobs. We bring not only food, but also clothes, and we do church services for them. And we meet once a week inside the building as well. So I run 2 churches. And if people want to help, you can e-transfer to my email, art@streetchurch.ca. They can go to our website, www.streetchurch.ca. There is a PayPal over there, or they can send a check if they want. And the information, they can send me an email. I will provide you with the information how you can do that using a check. If you want to see the videos of what we do, everything we do is public. You can go to my YouTube channel, Artur Pawlowski TV, or you can go to Street Church Calgary. If you're interested why I do what I do, there is a documentary that was done on my life. It's called Street Advocate, and then you will know why I have decided to do what I do. I used to be arrogant, ignorant, uninterested in the misery of people, and something happened to me. It changed my entire life. I walked away from the business, and I end up with the people on the streets, with the prostitutes, with the drug addicts, with the drunkards, trying to do my best to get them off the streets. So the story is there, Street Advocate. And remember, greater is he that is in us than the one that is in them. Truth always wins. Sometimes it takes a while, but I'm telling you, when you keep preaching the truth, sooner or later, more and more people will be awakened. And there is more of us than of them. And when the people will come together in unity, this whole thing will be over.
God bless you, Mr. Pawlowski. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. God bless.